So, why am I here today? I'm here to talk about basically enabling better data decision through basically connected data, KPIs, and everything that we can get from the project. So this is kind of a topic that can be talked about in hour and a half, 2-3 days even, but I'll try to sum it up in these 15 minutes. So just the agenda in general. So I'll just do a little bit of an introduction about myself, the company, what do we do, the project in general. Unfortunately, I cannot show too much about the project. It's running, it's super confidential, and the data is also confidential, of course, with that. So I'll try to share a high-level overview and a brief presentation of it. So the challenges we faced afterwards and what's the solution we put in practice. Okay, so just a little bit of introduction about myself. Josip Komadina, BIM Coordinator at Exyte German Group. So I've been classified now as like a digital innovator, working on process automation, workflow improvements, and setting things up basically with the tools that are at our disposal to make sure we make better decisions, to make sure we can summarize everything, predict, and do risk analysis as well. So my goal is basically to connect the leadership and the design teams and everybody, so everybody has a clear picture on the current status of the project. Okay, and of course, improve project coordination and interdisciplinary collaboration. Just a little bit about Exyte. Exyte is a global leader in engineering and design. We deliver ultra-clean, high-tech facilities that are, of course, with the focus on sustainability. Our motto is we bring the future of technology to life, operating in 3 sectors. So it's advanced technology facilities, biopharma and biotech, and data centers. So the advanced technology facilities is my focus of work. So that means semiconductor facilities and battery cell facilities. Just a little fun fact from McKinsey and FMI. It is said that now, by calculation, 88 billion euros is lost in construction due to reworks, and 90% of data on projects is not being used at all. So then, when we came to our challenge, we said first, is there a way we can AI our way out of this? And the answer was no. Unfortunately, we had to do it the old school way. Okay, so what were the challenges we faced on this project? Of course, a large amount of people first. 1,000+ people at the time were working at the project. Now it's close to 2,000. We have several companies, like dozens and dozens of subcontractors, client companies, everybody. So the kind of key information kind of went missing as people are onboarding to the project. We had thousands of issues raised. We tried to use ACC issues as clashes themselves. We were not able to do that. We had 50,000 clashes at one point, but that's me trying to dumb it down. It's kind of like hundreds of thousands at one point. And there was no clear prioritization for that. We had thousands of ACC reviews for document revisions. We also couldn't follow everything that was happening. So we needed a structured way not to have our data fragmented and knew what's the latest thing. Teams were getting overwhelmed with all this data and what to do with it, and they were losing priority and what did they need to focus at a certain time. So, what was the vision? Vision was to turn all the available data to us into basically something usable, some usable insights that can be run through on a daily basis. So we built really smart dashboards that provide direction to the teams. They told them, you need to prioritize on this today. You know what your action is. Your goal is to hit a bigger percentage, to lower some clashes, to populate the data, submit your review, submit your documentation, and everything like that. And then we wanted to give all stakeholders a clear view, from engineering to leadership, what's actually going on there. And we do the weekly reports to them. They are always real-time data. So they get the weekly report just as a summary, but they are free to enter the dashboards any single time. They will know where we're at. So what is the solution we put in practice? We started from kind of 3 topics. So project basically setup, what are we going to do with it, how we're going to make sure that we provide to the client what's the requirement from him, and also what he doesn't provide to us, we need to make sure for the construction purposes is there. So we started with the BEP, so the BIM execution plan, the LOD metrics, what data do we need, what geometry do we need, how does it need to look like in the end. Of course, everybody knows there's like the file naming, CAD guidelines, the MEP systems, the standard stuff. And then the ACC setup itself, are we going to use reviews, are we going to use issues, how are we going to display all these things, and the model setup, the basics, let's say grid lines, levels, and everything like that, geolocating the model, and I would say etc. There's more things. And then what are the expectations we had? The requirements for the client themselves, the data format, the basically data owners, who is going to be responsible for which data is coming from the model. Then we do data validation, and what's the update frequency, and how do we report everything at the end? How do we say, you're doing a good job, you're doing a bad job? And then the tools were the tricky one. We tried a few third-party solutions. We were not able to satisfy all the needs, so then one tool provided one thing, other tool provided something else, and it's kind of like we had to go custom. This was just then turned into a whole case study in the end. Can we do it with the common tools? How far can we go, and what can we achieve? So of course then we decided we'll go custom, we'll go out to the software and a custom solution to export the data and analyze it. Okay, we need somewhere to store this. The project is run on ACC and on a SharePoint for the project. We needed to use these 2 things and combine where we store it, how do we retract the data, or how do we get it to our dashboards. Then the file formats, of course, everybody's going to hate me for this. That's in the data science, data engineering, like Excels, but I have seen in the industry we're not moving from Excels anytime soon. We could use some database that's going to be in the future, like Microsoft Fabric or something like that, that's going to be storing the data, but Excels are the thing for now. And then some JSON and XML formats for exporting. Just to show a little bit of an overview on the toolkit that we have here. So this is just a brief overview of some of the workflows we put in place. So on the left here, you can see this is the custom tool we built. So it's a C# add-in for Navisworks. It's basically exporting data, analyzing data, doing some custom workflows to the elements that we have set, and it's all being scheduled to run overnight on a computer, like a remote computer, and it's exporting Excel files into SharePoint. I know, Excel files again. But the cool part is the other side of the screen, the automated Revit checking we did. So if you know, Autodesk developed Autodesk Validation Toolkit, and you're able to check your ACC Revit models in the cloud itself. So then we build a backend that would take the results, push them into Azure Blob, and analyze the data there, and we would still be able to display it inside of the workspace-based dashboard, or a PowerBI dashboard based in the workspace. And the Autodesk Desktop Data Connector was allowing us to pull the data from ACC. Just a little bit of an example of the part of Navisworks add-in that we did. So basically, as I said, we're pushing the Navisworks data. Navisworks is hosted inside of ACC, and it's being updated on a daily basis. So does it mean clashes? Does it mean model data? Does it mean checking the quality of the geometry itself? What's flying outside of the model? It's a lot of things that we did for just Navisworks. I mean, this project, I gotta explain the size maybe. It is 200 plus models. It is, I think now 7 million elements. We have requirements of hundreds of parameters to be populated and delivered per discipline, so we have to map everything to every discipline. So it was a lot of work, and you gotta understand, 2 people, 200 models, sounds like a blockbuster movie if you ask me, but like, filled with action. And then we had to close the circle. So basically, how do we get it back to ACC? Because everybody now in the industry seems to, on this project, seems to know how to work with ACC, but not everybody seems to know how to work with like workspaces and where do we share this Power BI. So ACC Insights came to mind. We can embed the Power BI there. We can keep all our dashboards there. So it's like a one-stop solution for everybody to come in, look, okay, and figure out, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I need to do next. And it's easy now. And what comes with this, we just are not pushing this Navisworks data for nothing. We want to integrate it with some schedules, external exports from schedules, some lists, external information. So like an MEP list, how are you going to check it if it's changing? You're not going to make it like static. You need, if somebody from the management or from the client wants to add some system to the list, we can make it easily like interchangeable. So if they update some of their Excel, some database there, we can pick it up quickly and then start checking again. And this is one fun thing that you can do with clashes when you analyze them. You can actually pinpoint the areas that you're working with, so you can get heat maps. So heat maps would provide you like which areas are causing me the most headaches and which areas do I need to focus more on. But what's cool about this is when you export even more data, so when you export, let's say, parameters, when you export like disciplines, when you export systems, you can actually start analyzing per system, per parameter, per, let's say, a package. You're delivering level 1 tomorrow. Not tomorrow, maybe too soon. Okay, you're delivering level 1 in 2 weeks. I need to focus on that. I can isolate everything and see in level 1, I have 1,000 clashes. Need to solve them by 2 weeks. Easy to see where they come from and what are their blockers. So just to wrap it up quickly, this is the line I found that kind of serves the purpose here very well. Even a 0.2 or 0.4 reduction in rework causes like millions to be saved on a project. And when you got semiconductor fabs that are worth billions, you actually it starts adding up. And then we got a report for the current stage. So the project is currently running. We're starting construction soon. I mean, the construction of MEP. And then we got a report that tens of hours are being saved every week just per person from the engineering and design side. We have 50% reduction in clash reviews. And we have 1 day saved per design management assistant to make these reports for the management. And then we had fewer escalations. And in the end, client liked the approach because it provides them visibility on what's going on. And now they reference all the dashboards and everything we do as a starting point for every talk, every meeting. And just to say it in the end, of course, we touched this the first time, everything worked. Yeah, not really. So we started small. We started for some, let's say we can give you one insight, and then it started to ramp up from there and build on top of it. And then by the end now we have a monster, I would say, like inside of reporting. I wish I could share like the exact look of the dashboard, but unfortunately that is not the time yet. And then we, of course, said create with users and not against them. Don't create in some isolation bubble that you think it will be worth. Adapt to current meetings, current workflows, current things that people are doing, and then you will get far from there. And prioritize clarity. We can push a lot of things into these dashboards. We can analyze a lot, but some things are not clear. They need to be adapted to what we're working on. And then, of course, they need to be part of the daily routines. Of course, don't overload. We had issues with overload of data, querying, everything was being a mess because we pushed too much in the beginning. And then, as I said, ownership. We need to know who's responsible for everything at every point. So that's the biggest part. And of course, the full integration, I think everybody finds this the hardest. The full integration on every single project is something to talk about in hours, I think. But adoption and integration is the first goal, and that's where we start. Okay, so thank you everyone very much. I think my time is out, but if anybody wants to speak on the floor, I would be more than happy to.